Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Creating a gradient background that shifts on click can add a visually appealing effect to your web projects. This tutorial will guide you through the process using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Step 1. Set up your HTML. First, create a simple HTML structure. We will create a full-screen div that will hold our background gradient. Here's a basic example. HTML. Doctype HTML. HTML lang equals n. Head. Meta charset equals UTF-8. Meta name equals viewport. Content equals width equals device width. Initial scale equals 1.0. Title gradient background shift/title. Link rel equals stylesheet. Href equals styles.css. /head. Body. Div class equals gradient background. ID equals gradient bg/div. Script src equals script.js/script. /body. /html. Step 2. Style with CSS. Next, we will add some CSS to style the gradient background. The .gradient background class will cover the entire viewport and have a smooth transition effect. CSS **styles.css** body, HTML. Margin, 0. Padding, 0. Height, 100%. Overflow, hidden. Gradient background. Height, 100%. Background, linear gradient, 45 degrees, FF6B 6B, F7B 733. Transition, background onesies. Step 3, add JavaScript for click event. Now, we will write JavaScript to handle the click event. When the user clicks on the gradient background, we will change the gradient colors. JavaScript //script.js. Const gradient bg equals document.getElement by id, gradient bg. Const gradients equals linear gradient, 45 degrees, FF6B 6B, F7B 733. Linear gradient, 45 degrees, 490 E2, 9013 Fe. Linear gradient, 45 degrees, F39 C12, E74 C3C. Linear gradient, 45 degrees, 2 ECC 71, 27 AE60. Linear gradient, 45 degrees, E67 E22, D35400. Gradient bg.add event listener, click, equals. Const random index equals math.floor, math.random, asterisk gradients.length. Gradient bg.style.background equals gradients random index. Explanation of the code. 1 HTML structure, we have a single div that will act as our gradient background. 2 CSS styles. We reset margins and padding for body and HTML to ensure the gradient covers the whole screen. The transition property on .gradient background allows for a smooth change in background color when it is clicked. 3 JavaScript functionality. An array of gradient strings is defined. We add an event listener to the div that listens for clicks. When clicked, it randomly selects a gradient from the array and applies it to the background of the div. Final result. When you run this code and click on the background, it will transition smoothly to a random gradient from the predefined list. Additional enhancements. Continuous loop. You could set an interval to automatically change the gradient every few seconds. Gradient picker. Allow users to input their own colors for a more interactive experience. Mobile responsiveness. ensure that the design looks good on all devices by using media queries. This tutorial provides a basic yet effective way to implement a gradient background shift on click. Feel free to expand upon this concept and customize it to fit your needs. Creating a gradient background shift on click can add a dynamic and visually appealing effect to your web application. In this tutorial, we'll create a simple web page that changes its background gradient when a button is clicked. Step 1. Set up your HTML. First, you need a basic HTML structure. Create an index.html file and add the following code. HTML. Doctype HTML. HTML lang equals n. Head. Meta charset equals UTF-8. Meta name equals viewport content equals width equals device width, initial scale equals 1.0. Title gradient background shift / title. Link rel equals stylesheet href equals styles.css. / head. Body. Div class equals container. H1 click the button to change background / H1. Button ID equals gradient button change background / button. /div. Script src equals script.js / script. /body. /html. Step 2, add some basic styles. Next, create a styles.css file to style the page. Here's an example of how you might style the container and button. CSS. Asterisk. Margin, 0. Padding, 0. Box sizing, border box. Body. Height, 100 VH. Display, flex. Align items, center. Justify content, center. Transition, background 0.5 SEs. Dot container. Text align, center. Color, white. Button. Padding, 10px 20px. Font size, 16px. Border, none. Border radius, 5px. Cursor, pointer. Background, RGBA, 255, 255, 255, 0.2. Color, white. Transition, background 0.3s. Button hover. Background, RGBA, 255, 255, 255, 0.5. Step 3, implement the background shift with JavaScript. Now, create a script.js file. This file will contain the JavaScript code that changes the background gradient upon button click. JavaScript. Const button equals document.getElement by ID, gradient button. Const body equals document.body. Const gradients equals linear gradient, to right, FF7E5F, Feb47B. Linear gradient, to right, 6A11CB, 2575FC. Linear gradient, to right, FF6A00, EE0979. Linear gradient, to right, 00C6FF, 0072FF. Linear gradient, to right, FAFT, FFC3A0. Button.add event listener, click, equals. Const random index equals math.floor, math.random, asterisk gradients.length. Body.style.background equals gradients random index. Step 4, explanation of the code. HTML, we created a basic structure with a title and a button that will trigger the background change. CSS, basic styles are applied for layout, text color, button styling, and smooth transitions for the background change. JavaScript. We define an array called gradients that contains different gradient styles. We add an event listener to the button that listens for click events. When the button is clicked, a random gradient is selected from the array, and the body's background is updated. Step 5, run your code. To see the effect in action. 1. Save all files in the same directory. 2. Open index.html in your web browser. 3. Click the button to change the gradient background. Conclusion. This tutorial covered how to create a gradient background shift on click using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can customize the gradients, styles, and additional features as you wish to create a unique user experience. Enjoy coding.